One time, maybe this parable may help. Jesus sits in the temple and he sees the rich. Okay, people coming to give their offerings. He sat there and he saw the rich putting a lot of money. And I guess because the tradition was that those that were wealthy, probably they would come showing off.
Of course.
So they come and they are dropping big bundles of money. But then a poor woman comes with just some coin and she drops it there. And Jesus says, look, all the others gave out of their abundance. But this woman has given out of poverty. Do you see?
Jesus was complicated.
No, Jesus was very
Jesus
ordinary.
was very complicated.
Because Jesus looks at this particular woman
Yes.
that she loves God. The only thing she has given it to God.
Wow.
It is like this poor woman, which who lived in Zarephath. Yeah?
Yes.
And then, because she loved God, God tells Elijah, don't go and stay with her. Yeah. And you provide from that place for 3 years, I suppose. And she had only a little oil and some little flour. But that is where God sends his servant, who was very powerful.
So much learned from that. Eh?
So what is God saying? It's not the much. It is the little, but God looks at the heart. Because giving and serving God is not from how much you have. It is from the heart. And I think our apostle, in his book on Money Matters,
Yes.
he has talked that giving is the heart. The moment you have a desire to give to God from the heart, there's nothing that you cannot give to God.
Wow.
Because everything else is little compared to God.
And the apostle says that God will always ask for what he has given you.
Yes. In fact, God will not ask for what he has not given you.
Yes.
After all, everything that we have is from God.
Wow.
It's from God. So what do we own really? We own nothing. So when you see people trying to withhold or holding to their riches and wealth, to me, I think it's erroneous.
Can we pray for money?
Absolutely, yes. We can pray for money.
But there are some Christians who have spent a lot of time in church praying for money, but we are not seeing it. What could be the problem with that?
You see, prayer is one bit.
Yes.
And God hears it. But acquiring money is another thing. You see, it is God who gives us the power to make wealth. I think that is Deuteronomy 8, and I think verse 18. It is God who gives us the power to make wealth. So, when we pray for money, God expects us to expend power that he has given to us in terms of strength, in terms of ideas, in terms of skills, to go out there and make money.
So it's not just coming here and praying the whole day.
If you pray the
more than
whole
that.
day, then God will have answered by the beginning of the prayer. The rest of the time, you are simply wasting your time, which you would have used
Yes.
To make money.
to make money.
Just like
Because
the
it has
bands.
to be made. Just like the band says, God, here is a new day.
Yes. I move out.
I need food. It will pray that prayer. And it will sing a good song. Because you see birds wake up and they sing to God. They praise him.
Wow.
Right? So, but then it has to fry. It has to fry.
Get out of the nest.
As it gets out of the nest and fries, then God provides.
The insects,
The insects are out there.
the sins,
The seeds are
the
out
rice.
there.
Yes.
And it finds.
Wow.
And it has to go for it. Now, if you pray for money and you don't go and look for it, certainly you'll not get.
Wow.
I can assure you. This is why we have got a lot of people praying in the church, but they are not getting answers to their prayers because they don't understand how God works.
So there is a principle.
There's a principle. The principle is pray and do. Pray and do. Pray and act.
The action part.
This is why James says faith without
Action.
actions is dead. If you tell us that you have got a lot of faith, but you are not exercising that faith, then
It's null and void. Or tear.
as you called it. As you've called it. Yeah? So, and that's a problem we have in the church.
I believe that we are learning something
Yes.
and we are getting something from the discussion. I like the wisdom that LU does.
Yes.
Practically, and also from every aspect of his life, from experience.
Yes.
I like
And
that.
I think the direction
Mm.
we have gone now to doing, going to make the money.
Yes.
So we young people are, I think we find ourselves in a very sort of strange time, if I may call it so. Currently in our country and I think the world over, we are in some sort of recession coming, and we are wondering, how do young people make money today, especially the young person in the church?
How do we make money?
How do we make
How do
money?
we make money?
And it's
Yes.
a question that everyone is asking, not only the young people, but even the older people.
Yes.
People asking, how do I make money?
Okay.
Every day.
Okay.
Yes.
Probably I begin by saying that as population grows
Yes.
globally, there is increased competition for scarce resources.
Wow.
That statement is rounded.
Uh-huh.
There is increased competition for scarce resources. Resources have never been enough, so to speak. But there's a time probably in history where we would say that the population of the world was not as large as it is. I think it is this year, sometimes in March, when the world clocked 8 billion people.
Oh.
8 billion.
Who was the 8th billion person?
We do not know. I suppose you are more than 8 billion.
Yes.
Because some people give birth in where the count is not done. And
some
of course,
give triplets.
yeah, and then probably others die,
Yes.
and probably it's not recorded. So it could be anywhere 8 billion plus minus.
Yes.
So that tells you when the population probably was 2 billion, one would have said the world did not have as much competition.
Sure.
But then again, we are saying it is competition to achieve what? You see?
I like that question. Eh?
It is
What are you competing for?
Yes.
Right.
It is competition to achieve what? Now, so if you listen to global debate, people are saying food is decreasing. Wealth of nations is decreasing kind of. The economies are getting squeezed. The affluence that people would have talked about or would have bragged about probably is decreasing. So really what we are saying is that people are spending more than probably what they are getting.
Sure.
All the expenditures have gone up. And that's why I think he is talking about inflation and recession, where probably the economies of the world, they are not producing as much as they used to produce. Now in economics, that would be measured in terms of per capita income. We are looking at Kenya and looking at GDP and dividing that by the population, and then saying that every person in Kenya, hypothetically, should be earning 10,000 per month. That means 120,000 per year. So as the population goes up, if you are not producing as much to match the 120 today, if we decrease that production next year, then we will become poorer.
Wow.
And that means there will be increased competition. But the question I ask is, competing for what? You see? If we are able to feed ourselves, if we are able to clothe ourselves, if we are able to build roads for ourselves, things that people normally do, then we should not be feeling the ways sometimes, the kind of desperation sometimes I see. Now, for young people, they could be saying, fine, we are young. The tradition we have found in this country, for example, or in other countries, is that when you are young, you are employed to work. You are employed to work for companies, to work for government, and other areas. As you work, you are compensated for that work. That means you get some money.
Yes.
So what has happened globally is that sometimes jobs have been scarce because probably technology has taken over. So fewer workers are needed, or maybe companies have closed because the raw materials are not available, or because of the competition, production has decreased generally. So you find the levels of unemployment has gone up. So this is why you see the desperation we are talking about. So our children are young people, they get educated, they graduate from colleges and universities, but they can't find jobs.
Yes.
But then again, we are saying it's not just in a white collar or blue collar areas where you can get jobs. Some young people can find other areas for economic engagement. Like in the areas of farming, food is never enough. We are always looking for food.
And we said it's a basic need.
And we say it's a basic need. People always eat.
Yes.
Right? In some other areas, you find there are some gaps where it is not saturated, or there are, the people or the professionals in that area, they are not as many. Like in some of the jobs that we demean generally because they don't pay very well, because they don't have very good or high salaries, or they don't give you image that you think you should have. See? So people don't concentrate on them. Like the technical courses, plumbers, masons, electricians, and draftsmanship,
Draftsmen.
they are called draftsmen, yes, and other areas like those. You see, people think there are certain jobs that are high caliber or high value, and others are not. But then you argue and ask, why can't I do those jobs? Because there is need for them. So it's really a dichotomy where people are either choosing or they are comparing themselves, again, the same word of comparison, because they think certain jobs are better. You see, for example, now, the other day I saw the Public Service Commission in Kenya. They advertised, I think, for 500 jobs, and over 50,000 people applied.
500 and 50,000.
50,000.
So
applied.
what happens to the rest? 400 and
45,500.
45,500.
They will miss the jobs, or they missed.
Okay.
All right? Even in politics, because people think that being a politician or an MP or an MCA is a good job. Did you see how many people ran for those posts?
A lot of them.
A lot of them. But then when you see they are only limited in this number, or to a particular number, then you begin to ask yourself, then what other thing can I do other than this that everybody is looking for? Or
So are you saying that we need to be broad-minded?
Apart from being broad-minded, it's an issue of identifying an area where you have got competence, capacity, skills, and interests. Because God has given us some innate capacities that we can apply in certain areas, and we make wealth, and we make money. Because in that particular area that God has equipped you in, He wants, or He desires that you use it to serve other people.
Okay.
Yeah? Or to use it for His work. You know, when you serve people, you're also probably serving God. So if you're able to apply that, what you have, God has given you, and you sharpen it, you take it to whatever level, then you'll be able to serve Him.
Just master the ritual that...
You just master. Because again, you cannot be everything to everybody. Or you cannot be everywhere in this world. God has given you a certain area of operation. That's why you are not everywhere.
The most interesting about that, it's true that people are working to look for employment, but very few people are looking for them becoming employers. It's an interesting thing.
Yes, but I hear you, Elder. The question is, somebody somewhere out there is asking, fine, I have a particular gifting, I have a but how do I start? I don't know what the starting means.
You see, I'll give, for example, an example of the Bible. When Moses was told to do a tent, the tabernacle, he was told there's a man called Bezalel. I have equipped him with the skills and competencies for all the work that is required to do that work. So literally God knows there is someone somewhere who has got certain competencies and skills
Yes.
which can be used for a particular work.
Um,
So now the issue is, in the life we are in now, you need one to develop those skills. Because if you are an artist, you need to be, for example, taught and sharpened on how to use those artistic skills. If you are a teacher, you need to be sharpened on how to teach and deliver. If God has designated you as a driver, for example, you need to go to a driving school so that you are taught how to drive. Because there are other users out there.
Sure.
You see? Now, so the first thing I keep thinking is that everybody needs to sharpen their skills. This is why people go to school. This is why people go to college. This is why people go through many years of education. And others will go all the way to the university so that they can sharpen the skills as they go up. Now, unfortunately, we live in a world where the higher you go in terms of skills and competence development, the more you are paid.
Okay.
If you are employed, or if you do it yourself, probably you do it better and you can probably even charge better. Right? Because like now, if you wanted to build a sanctuary like this, you need an engineer, you need an architect, you need an electrician, and many, many other people.
Sure.
But you also find people who know how to dig trenches, and you need them. We call them watu wa moko, you know, as we call them here.
KYM.
Right?
Yes.
And you need them. The engineer will not dig. Not that they can't dig, but they are better off at giving us the competence on how to do certain things.
Sure.
So the higher you go in terms of skills and the competence, probably the more you build your capacity to earn.
Wow.
To earn more. But we are saying there is always a starting point. You see, depending on the level that you are at, you can begin there. Because God does not expect you to begin where you are not.
But you kijana hana kitu.
Yeah, hana pesa,
So
hana masomo, but akona skill.
So let's now hypothetically pick a young person.
Yes.
And because you are talking to young people, let's talk about 18-year young man who has gone through our required basic education up to Form 4.
Yes.
This person has left school without a grade that can be presented somewhere. It's hypothetical. So this person has capacity or skills to sell things. It's hypothetical really, to sell things, and he's wondering, I don't have skills, so I cannot go and ask for a sales job because there's nothing to present. I can't go to a tertiary college and register for a sales course. So what do I do?
Yes.
What do I do? And then I don't have money to
start a business.
To start service. And what is that service that I'll start now?
Okay.
Yeah, what is it that I'll sell? If I decide to sell avocados, for example, I will need some little money to buy those avocados.
Of course, yes. And I don't have it.
And I don't have it.
Yes.
Now, this particular young person is not could become desperate, or can think differently and pick himself or herself from that situation. How do you do that now? And this is where now things get either thick or smart.
Yes.
I want to put myself in the shoes of this young person.
Yes.
And I'll say I'm not living in isolation. So probably I have parents. I can talk to them and share my ideas.
Okay.
And find out whether my parents can support me. If they support me, then I'm beginning. Or I'll sit down and say, I want to sell avocados, but I want to start small. I want to start small
Yes.
and see whether I can grow it. So I can go and buy avocados for 1,000 shillings. I don't have the 1,000, so I also think, who can I borrow this little money and go and buy, sell at a profit, and refund? All right? When I refund, I'm left with a profit, and I can now keep growing this money. All right? And I've seen people like that. Actually, people who began very, very small.
Wow.
Right now, I'm thinking of a young man I've seen where I live. And because he could not, I don't know his status of education and all that, or even where he comes from, but I saw him just set up a very small, a selling place, a selling table. I don't know what to call it. Yeah, the one of timber. And he started with one melon, one watermelon, one.
Okay.
And it is near a trench where water passes. And of course, along the road where people pass, but he started with one watermelon, one, like this. So he cut it into pieces and he started selling. And he was there, smiling. And of course, people passed him. I don't know whether the first day he did not sell as much. Maybe he recovered whatever little money probably had gotten.
Yes.
The other day, I saw him with melons and oranges and pineapples.
That's growth.
And he's been there for more than a year now.
Oh.
The same place, but he comes on and off. But I like him because he smiles at people. He's not ashamed of what he's doing. And I like his tenacity.
Wow.
That he's there.
Wow.
He's trying to do something.
Wow.
And when people pass, they buy. Now, the other day when I saw him with so many melons, I said, one has grown to about 10, 15, 20.
Wow.
And now he has got oranges.
Wow.
Now he has got some pineapple. I saw him with a few pineapples also. And he must have sold them.
Wow.
Now, that's a young man who is starting from a very small level.
From one.
One.
From one watermelon.
One watermelon.
And actually, I'm seeing something. The shame that the guy...
People think it's shame.
Yes.
It's shameful. But he doesn't think so. I also saw someone a while ago when I was younger. He left school, went to his uncle, and told his uncle, just around me, the uncle was having a place where they would sell a kiosk. They would sell mandazi and tea. So he went and told his uncle, give me a birika of tea and a few pieces of mandazi. I'll go and sell it outside there.
Wow.
You see, the uncle did. All he did was to count how many mandazis. And they agreed for every mandazi he sells out there, it will be more expensive with a shilling or 50 cents for that matter. So if he sells 20 mandazis, he has got 10 shillings. If he's making a 50 cents. And for every cup of tea he sells out there, because some people may not want to come to the kiosk, he makes 5 bob. And he made.
Okay.
Over time, he actually opened his own kiosk.
Okay.
Because he made some little capital that he was able to use. So when people say, I don't have, really, it's not that they don't have. They are basically limiting themselves.
It is them who are the problem.
Because there are resources. God always gives resources. So if I were this young man, I would pray, asking God to give me money to start the business. Then, God has a way of providing. He may not bring it from nowhere. Or it comes into my pocket. Probably I need to go and talk to someone whom God will have given the grace to give me that little capital that I can start with. Or you send me somewhere where I can begin to generate without necessarily having the money in my pocket.
Wow. I like that example.
Yes.
And it works.
It's a good example, man.
And you know, it's interesting. The other show we were talking about, I think we touched on attitude. And I think this is about attitude. That young people need to have a particular attitude towards work. And you remember the other Sunday, Pastor Titus was saying that Christians are and the higher demographic of people out here in our country, it's Christians, as we know by statistics, and that means young people, most of them are Christians and are suffering. So I think we are touching on attitude that you as a young person needs to have an attitude where you can start small and grow. And it's about resilience also.
And the patience.
And the patience.
Yes, and waiting for it to grow. From one watermelon to many, a big shop.
And I can give you many examples of people that have seen grow from very small level, very low level, and they have made wealth. You know, like one time I lived in Komarok, and right at the gate was a young man. I won't mention his name, but do you know what? He started with selling biscuits. You remember those Britannia biscuits?
Yes.
One carton carried about 500 pieces. So you'd come every evening, no, every morning, and put that box on a stone, and you sell from that stone on the road.
And actually, the advantage, you're not paying rent.
You're not paying rent.
Yes.
Yeah. And he sold and he sold. And you see people would laugh at him because when the sun is very hot, he's there. Over time, within a short time, he started now selling biscuits during the day, and then he added a few sweets. The tropicals and all that. You see, he's saving what he is, the profit is getting, and then plowing it back. Then he started, in the evening, he would now begin to sell maize. Roasting. So he is selling his Britannia, and probably his Britannia is finished now because he started in the morning. But in the evening, he has added another line of income. This time, maize. But you have to be careful the source of the money. So he kept on selling and he sold. Over time, he increased his stock. You know, the stock kept on growing. Then we are told the milk people, there was scarcity of milk. And then the milk people would bring the milk very early in the morning. So what he did, he talked to a few shopkeepers, and he would hold the milk for them. Because he wakes up very early. So he would wake up very early, around 4, when the milk lorry is distributing milk, and he would take that milk and store it for a particular shop or several shops. So when the owners of the shop wake up, he delivers to them. Then he's painting something. Right?
That's a great man.
Then he also started now buying bread. And he has not stopped selling his Britannia and his sweets. But now he's now also buying bread and keeping it for those shopkeepers.
He's extending the tent.
Just like Jabez said, extend my boundaries. So he kept on expanding his boundaries. Eventually, to cut the story short, that young man, in a period of about 4 years, he opened a shop. Right where he used to sell, he opened a shop there. Because someone vacated. So he occupied the shop. And within a period of another 3 years, he had a capital of almost nearly 1 million.
Like that.
From Britannia.
So it is us who are limiting ourselves.
And he had the biggest shop in that area. He opened a second shop and employed the sister. In fact, in that shop where he was, he had now married and they would sell with the wife. And he stocked plastics. Anybody wanting plastics within that area, he would come to that shop. You know, I looked at that young man and I said, look, I've seen this young man from nothing, from nowhere, literally. But now he's having the biggest shop in the area.
The estate.
So when you hear people saying, I've nothing, it's only that they are lazy. They don't want to work. Or they have a bad attitude. They are selecting the jobs they want to do. It's not that there's nothing to be done. It's only that they are selecting. Others, they want to be comfortable. They want comfort. They don't want to sit in the sun or go to a combat and appear, step on the mud or mix with too many people. They just want comfort. A lot of our young people, our children, they are just sleeping in the house, watching TV. They're just watching TV.
Yes.
And videos and other things.
Movies.
And then at the end of the day, they want to ask their parents for some little money to go and entertain themselves. But you've been sleeping there. And this is the time you should be generating money and wealth for yourself, if not for anybody else.
I like
Yeah?
that.
So I've seen all these examples, and there are many. In fact, I want to say this with humility.
Yes.
A lot of the people that we know that are wealthy
Yes.
today, and we call them rich,
Mm.
if you listen to their stories,
Uh-huh.
they are stories of humble
Mm.
beginnings.
I agree.
Stories of humble
I
beginnings.
agree with that.
They began small,
Mm.
or they were mistreated, or they were in very severe need.
Mm.
And that created a desire
Mm.
to solve those needs.
Wow.
And that, actually, poverty is a need that drives people to make wealth.
Okay.
If you are poor, you are needy,
Mm.
or you are very needy,
Mm.
that triggers a desire to generate money,
To get out of poverty.
to get out of it.
Okay.
Because there are needs that you must meet.
Right.
When you find people who are idle, it's because they are comfortable. They are in comfort zones.
I'm just liking it. I've gotten 2 points.
Yes.
That we need to identify a need within our environment
Yes.
and get ourselves or a way of solving the need.
Yes.
That way, you're able to make money.
Yes.
Then you also to think out of the box.
Yes.
Know that someone is looking and someone is watching. There is an Hebrew one that's an Hebrew proverb from our village. I don't know whether Elder is able to interpret that mwana mwega dagaga muthambia, mwana wikio
Yeah.
dagaga muthambia. That a hard-working person does not lack someone to support.
Yes.
So if people see the hard work in you, they're able to support you. If people see the heart tuned in you, they're able to support you. So nobody should be complaining. Actually, there is no work, there is no money. You only need to be smart. And also people talk of being street smart,
Yes.
street smartness, right? You might not be so much educated, but you can get to the streets and make money because money is always there. Elder will always tell us that money is in the trees. Money is all over.
Yes. In fact, speaking about trees, Elder said he's a farmer.
Yes.
Actually, he was a banker. He was a banker. Yes, he didn't tell us that he was once a banker when he was younger. And he told us outside of this set that money is in the trees, money is in the soil, because he said
Yes.
I think those are investment areas, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where to make
We
money
as
from.
young people, how can we identify areas of making investments?
Well, I would say that, okay, when you look at the history of man, you say that we have had epochs, stages of development, because we started as gatherers. When we just go to the forest,
And gather.
hunters and gatherers. You go to the forest with arrows, and then you find some fruits to eat. You shoot something, you come and eat. Then, of course, we went into the agrarian stage, where there was more of farming now, and people began to do farming. They would farm to eat, and then whatever excess they had, probably it was processed, stored, and some of it was sold, and then people would buy different things that they did not need or they did not have. Then we came into the industrial. We came into the industrial stage, where there was development of industries, and big factories where now the processing of iron and other equipment came in. This is why we see a lot of big equipment. We have steel, etc. Now we are told we are in the fourth stage, where we are talking about information stage, where a lot of investments are in communication.
Yes.
Where a lot of people don't want to do farming. They now want to know where the food is, and they want to connect the one who has and the one who does not have.
Yes.
And then they make money along the way. And when you look at, for example, the service industry in general, like insurance, banking, communication, and all that, there is very little of input other than equipment that people need. And a lot of those things are not tangible. Generally, they are intangible. Like now, what is Safaricom selling to us? Have you ever touched anything Safaricom sells to you? And you pay for it.
Hot air.
They sell to you air, and they call it bundles. They sell to you a means of communicating, and they are just using airwaves. See? But there's nothing really.
Yes.
When you are told for you to store on data, you need to store it in a cloud, so you buy space in cloud. Which cloud is this? Where is it located?
Nimbus clouds, cumulus clouds.
I mean, which Jew? How far? You know, we don't understand these things.
Yes.
They are simply intangibles. So you realize again we are in a different level. So when you look at areas that people can invest, I would say there's a bit of advancement and restrictions